Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster back here on this Tuesday night, June 13th, 2023, about 10:49 p.m. here. In the state of California, the latest activity looks like a 4.3 coming into the South America region, the latest quake here on the globe. Right around the Chile area, about 31 kilometers deep, showing up there on the EMSC model. Nothing yet from the USGS. All right, let's go ahead and check out the West Coast activity up here. Starting off in Northern California, a little bit of activity here around the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone once again. 3.0 from earlier this afternoon, also a 2.0 roughly down there between about 13 and 15 kilometers deep. Again, the southern end of the Cascadia. Also, one interesting earthquake up here. North of Mount Shasta, 2.0. Don't see too much activity out here, but it looks like around the Miller Mountain area, seen a little bit of seismic activity earlier this afternoon. Around the Clear Lake, or not Clear Lake, but the Lake Almanor area. A couple smaller earthquakes here from earlier. It looks like 2.4 and a 2.1. This has been an area of increasing seismic activity here over the past month. Here's a look at the last 30 days of activity. Shows about 61 earthquakes showing up here on the map. Of course, the largest, I think it's been over 30 days, hasn't it? Goodness. Has it really been over 30 days since we've had that 5.5? I guess. So there's probably a bigger number of earthquakes out here besides what you're seeing here in the last 30 days. But it's been an ongoing thing with earthquake activity underneath the lake. Hasn't really led to anything major yet, but something going on. A little bit of activity across Reno as well. And, of course, the Clear Lake volcanic field in full swing today. 34 earthquakes around the Cobb Mountain area. Of course, the Calpine hydrothermal operations ongoing out there. Around the San Andreas Fault, the creeping segment. A few earthquakes here in the last couple hours. Nothing major yet. Looking at the 2.5 and above map, we did see a slight uptick in the magnitude department with a 3.3 coming in earlier this afternoon. Also a 2.6 near the Gilroy area, a little bit further upstream here along the San Andreas Fault, the plate boundary here. For the most part, though, the Bay Area itself fairly quiet, except for a little bit of uptick here across the plate boundary south of the Bay. One earthquake around the Grapevine, 2.2 coming in. Also a little bit of activity down around the Ridgecrest area here. As far as the extreme Southern California area goes, no major movement across the San Andreas Fault for now. One day that will not be the case, so that will definitely be a major worldwide newsmaker when that does take place. This activity out here around Holtville, this is the Imperial Fault, was from earlier this morning. No further movement since then. Pacific Northwest, relatively quiet. There's not even one peep of an earthquake showing up, which is a little odd. I find it to be odd. Was looking for the tremor map. I could have swore I had the tremor map up, but maybe I didn't. 25 epicenters of tremor here around the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. Nothing big, 25. This is a declining event. I was hoping this would peak out here towards similar events that we've seen in the past, but it looks like we're entering into a little time frame similar to, well, it's hard to say, maybe 2020. Where we've seen very minimal activity there with the tremor department. All right, let's see. Yellowstone National Park, got a little bit of activity up here around the northern segment of the super volcano. Nothing big, just a couple spikes of an earthquake earlier in the day. This is outside interference, not anything related to Yellowstone, not anything to fearmonger about. This is not volcanic activity. It's not anything. Seismograph stations have errors. Just because you see a signal out here doesn't mean that it's a legit signature. Occasionally things happen as far as errors go. As far as seismic activity goes, this is probably a very good map to look at. A little bit of seismic activity here over the last few hours. Very small microquake activity, though, to say the least, with that activity. All right, further out and about, a little bit of movement across Oklahoma and Texas. One lonesome earthquake out here around the New Madrid seismic zone, Hayward, Missouri. 2.3, 9 kilometers deep here. Rest of the area around the states, pretty quiet. Out here around Puerto Rico, still getting a little swarming out here around the Puerto Rico Trench. With, looks like a couple threes, upper threes potentially, kicking up around this area. 3.8, 3.8, 3.7, 4.0. Things are getting a little bit on the elevated side here across the Puerto Rico Trench. A lot of unanswered questions as far as what this area is capable of producing as far as seismic activity goes. Of course, there's a subduction zone over here, but the Puerto Rico Trench here is a little chat about this thing producing a mega quake. Covered this in the year or maybe 2 years past in a video, but things are definitely seem like they're amping up here recently. A look at the 30 days map. Let me show you guys here across this area, and you know, swarms do kick up here across the Puerto Rico Trench, but it seems like it's elevated specifically within this area. As you can see, there's about 50 earthquakes here around the Puerto Rico Trench in a linear type fashion here, which would be indicative of the subduction level. It's a lot of earthquake activity. So just kind of watching that, seeing how that plays out. Down here around the Puerto Rico Trench, or the Puerto Rico area, the mainland area. Mostly smaller microquakes there across the area today. All right, South America. Let's see what we got kicking up out here. Of course, got some activity around the Middle America Trench. Further south here into the South America region, there's that 3.9 coming into the Peru or the Chile area. A couple other smaller quakes there across the region as well. Alaska seen that earthquake early this morning, a 5-pointer. Let's go ahead and zoom up here real quick. That's going to be that 5.3 early this morning, about 9 o'clock or so along the Aleutian Trench. Haven't really seen too much further movement here. A little bit of activity in the deeper levels of the Aleutian Trench following this 5.2. That would tell me right there that's obviously some increasing strain across this area. Let's see, northwestern corner of the Pacific Plate, awfully quiet. There is a 4.4 coming in. It looks like just now, fairly deep earthquake into the area. Let's see here. Let's see if USGS is reporting it. That's from earlier, 4.8, but it looks like that 4.4 occurring around the Banda Sea. Very deep earthquake activity, as noted here on the globe. Excuse me. There's that 4.8, a New Guinea area, 4.4 following that earthquake movement. So a little bit of activity shifting towards the west here along this plate boundary. The big story, I think, kind of an eye-opener out here is across the area of the Kermadec Islands. Earlier this morning, we were watching just a swarm of activity kick up in the 5 range. Now, that's somewhat unusual to see activity just back-to-back here. Literally within minutes of each other. Was watching for maybe some larger scale activity. Right now it's taken a temporary pause. The last earthquake was a 4.9 along the Kermadec Islands, about 4 o'clock my time frame. But still, this area is a major accumulator here of stress. And with all the movement, obviously, north here in the south of the region, Kermadec Trench area southward into New Zealand, definitely needs to be on guard for some further movement. Following this activity here, the shallow activity, we did see adjustment upstream here. I shouldn't say upstream, but up and further deep into the Tonga Ridge area. Tonga Trench had 2 earthquakes down there well below 500 kilometers deep. Earlier this afternoon, all this activity for the most part taking place just shortly after this area stopped. So I think there's strain building in this area. That's a lot of activity if you really think about it. Quite a few fives in a short amount of time period. But that just tells me right there that it's incredibly stressed in this area. New Zealand, that's definitely another one we need to watch out for. They did see a 3.0. Looks like North Island area. Let's see what we got from the GeoNet servers here. Serving the New Zealand region. There's that 3.0. About an hour ago, 14 kilometers deep. Aside from that, mostly smaller microquakes here over the past couple hours. A glance here at the earthquake drums will give us a good indicator of any large-scale activity. There's all those fives. Look at that. Let me bring this up here. A bunch of fives kicking up. This is very close to the Kermadec Islands area, and it was just back-to-back activity. But it's since calmed down. But with the deeper movement up north, further north along the Tonga Trench area, that tells me still that we need to watch this region pretty closely. Okay, so scooting down a little bit further north into, or further south, north, which one am I going to choose? South into the North Island area. There's that, looks like that's a 3-pointer right there showing up across this seismograph station. But far as activity goes, there's some of the that almost looks like it's trying to pick up some of those 5-pointers, but it doesn't quite look like it. This is a little bit different. This activity, let's see here, that activity is kind of, let me look at this real quick here. I didn't see this earlier. If you glance here, some of this activity around 14 to 10 on the timestamp. Looks like it is trying to show up there. I believe that's the 5-pointers up there in the Kermadec Trench showing up on some of these seismograph stations. Not 100% certain. It may looks like a little bit of a delay as far as the time readings go, but that's a little odd activity. You guys see that showing up here across the South Island area? Quite a few bumps going on there on the seismograph stations, but to me it looks a little off here on the readings. Could be because of distance, possibly. That's what I'm going to go with. I believe 14, let's see here, 14. Yeah, I believe those are going to be the distant earthquakes showing up here across this, across these seismograph stations. But we'll continue to watch out there in South Island. I do think this area needs to be on guard and on watch here for some further movement. Obviously with the large-scale activity taking place around it recently. All right, let's see here what else we have across the region of the world. 4.0, there we go, coming into the Mediterranean area right now. Just showing up on the earthquake 3D globe into western Turkey, 0 kilometers deep. And of course, this area has seen an incredible amount of aftershock activity. I couldn't even imagine the amount of aftershock activity that they've seen in the past couple months. It's just got to be out there, is what I'm guessing. It's got to be out there, right? Considering the 7s that they've seen here a few months back. For the most part there, Mediterranean, though, on the USGS map, quiet. The USGS a little slow tonight. Hopefully my stream doesn't go down for saying that, but it's a little slow. I'm just speaking the truth there, the facts. Mostly 2s and 3s out there across the area. The Atlantic Ocean, fairly quiet as well. Let's see what else we have. Yeah, just be on guard down there in New Zealand. I have a feeling actually that this is going to catch up pretty soon. I do want to see when the last earthquake activity, as far as large-scale movement goes, down there in that area. 6.0. We obviously know New Zealand's capable of a 6.0. Do want to go back since about 2000. Let's just go back 2000 and see what's going on down there. I'm just a little curious. Kermadec Trench, obviously we get some big quakes. Tonga Trench as well, but you know, the populated regions right here is what I'm a little bit worried about. So I pulled up 6.0 and above since about 2000. Y2K, right? Seems like it was just yesterday. Not even joking. Time is flying by. So the last earthquake here around North Island was a pretty deep, 225 kilometer deep, 6.1. Now that tells me it's there into the Hikurangi subduction zone. The deeper levels here underneath North Island. Prior to that, 2016 was a 6.5 here, just South Island, New Zealand area. 2016 was a major producer here in large earthquakes around the South Island area. You guys see that? We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 large earthquakes. The largest, 7.8. I think a lot of folks down there in New Zealand remember that back in 2016, but this is very active over that year. And then prior to that, looks like there was at least a 6-pointer every year or so, stretching back there to 2000. So our last large earthquake was 5 years ago here around New Zealand, as far as anything above 6.0. So I would say, technically, looking at least trends and statistics here, that New Zealand's obviously a little bit on the overdue side. So that's kind of why I'm a little bit concerned with this area, not only with that data showing lack of activity, but the movement all around it, up north over the past couple months, and all the movement down here along the plate boundary south. It's got to catch up. So just be on guard out there, folks, with this area of New Zealand. All right, moving on. Hawaii. Obviously, there's not a whole lot going on out here. Things are not building up below the surface. They are just continuing to flow at ease. A measly 10 earthquakes here across the Big Island. Latest activity here from the Hazard Notification System, which is a USGS daily report here on Kilauea Volcano. Kilauea Volcano is currently erupting, and this could be the ongoing status for a while. It's confined to the crater within the Kilauea Summit caldera. No unusual activity has been noted across the rift zones. Looks like lake observations here continue to decrease. Fountaining is diminished on the southwestern crater floor, with only a few small fountains remaining. This feature is a western lake from prior eruptions that has been reactivated along with smaller circular pool. Okay. So it looks like summit observations, summit tilt switched from ongoing deflation to mild inflation as of early yesterday afternoon. Summit seismicity activity is dominated by eruptive tremor. So with this being said here, it looks like maybe things are, obviously they're slowing down at the surface levels. Mentioning of the fountains are diminishing, but also inflation occurring. So that tells me right there that things may be getting a little bit on the stuck side below the surface as far as the magma goes. So we'll continue to watch that. And when that does happen, we could see an increase excuse me, of earthquake activity around the Kilauea volcano. So we'll keep that in mind with their wording and see how that plays out. All right, let's see. What else do we have here? Space weather activity. Goodness. Bugs are still out in full force. Not even joking. All right. I see a couple bright features. Do you guys see that? Look over here on the eastern limb of the sun. Even on this coronal hole map, you can see some very prominent features across the eastern limb of the sun. Look at that. I'm getting a little bit of flaring there, consistent flaring from a couple large sunspots, very large sunspots. This is from, yes, we've updated correctly. Earlier this morning, this was a day behind, so now we got the most recent update and a look at the eastern limb of the sun, and that is very active. Let's see what we got here. Look at that. Crazy, right? We're just looking at this morning, and it was like a day or so behind. So thank you very much, SDO, for getting on with your job. That's basically what you're supposed to do. So thank you for updating your information here. This activity, look at that big, ginormous sunspot region here on the southeastern limb and also on the northeastern limb here of the sun with a growing sunspot. This one grew drastically, but then again, I couldn't really tell from this morning because it was like a day and a half behind. But 3333, those are my numbers, believe it or not. Me and Missy Mimi's always have a thing with 333. That's just it. So this sunspot region is looking very active here on the when was this put out? 6/14/03,000. Yeah, I believe this is the same thing, but this sunspot here looks very complex, getting very active, and these ginormous sunspot regions are the ones that we're seeing flaring and producing some magnetic features here on the UV UV filter ray, I should say. So we'll watch these sunspot regions here. They're just big for further flaring. It looks like right now, and I'm sure this will change overnight, maybe by the morning time, 99% chance for a C flare, M flare at 15, X flare around 1. But again, we're seeing almost continuous flaring from a couple different sunspot regions on the eastern limb of the sun. Far as the X-ray flux chart goes, a little bit of upper C flare activity, crackling a little bit, but again, those sunspot regions are away from us, facing away from us. We're just a little visual on the upper areas of the sun, but it looks, goodness, they look a little crazy. So we'll watch those in the days ahead. Of course, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Might be kind of interesting here. I'm ready to get back into some active solar weather. I don't know about you guys, but solar weather is it's a very interesting subject, how it affects things on Earth. Right now, not a whole lot going on for the aurora forecast, so unfortunately that's just the deal. Hopefully we can get that to change here as we head into the weekend. Weather. All right, so weather is another story here. It looks like potentially tomorrow we're looking at a moderate threat of some severe weather across portions of the south. And that does include a 10% chance of tornado possibility. So this is a little enhanced risk across areas of Alabama and Georgia. Talking about Montgomery, Alabama, Columbus, Georgia area population of 1 million, over 1 million people. Big threat for some wind. Look at that. Easily into the 45% chance with a hatched area. 65 knots or greater within 25 miles of the point there if you're in that hatch zone. That includes, again, Montgomery, Alabama, Columbus, Georgia. Hail threat is a little bit pushed back towards Arkansas and northern Louisiana, but still, if you're in the south tomorrow, it's a very important day to pay attention to the weather, as things could get a little crazy as we head towards the late afternoon period. After that weather kind of shifts back the next day, and still getting some movement, at least some activity around the Kansas area and Oklahoma. Quick glance here at the numerical models. We're just going to check for hurricanes, see if we got any hurricanes building up out here. Remember, we had a couple models that were showing a hurricane forming out there in the Gulf, but I think I seen it. Just get shredded apart right there. Again, there's an area of circulation down here that could be tropical. It is tropical, obviously, but this low pressure pattern here sucks up the moisture and pretty much prevents it from developing. Notice this stream of moisture flowing north around that low, and it doesn't look like we're going to see that hurricane develop. A couple runs past, we've seen a hurricane around the 22nd of June right here, smack dab in the middle of the Gulf. That has since changed It looks like that's consistent far as activity. Look at that though, the 30th of June. Got some type of tropical development down south. We'll continue to watch that, of course. Things can change drastically, rapidly. Whoa, what's going on out here along the west coast? Looks like we got maybe a little bit of rainfall around the, oh goodness, 27th? That's a little odd for us out here on the west coast, but we'll check back on that in the days ahead, because this is way out there towards the end of June. We're talking about almost 2 weeks away, and these models are just, they're just models. That's all they are. They kind of give us a good indicator of weather patterns, but they're not 100% accurate. They could change tomorrow. You never know. All right, 2 more days. 2 more days before we do the member drawing that is coming up on the 15th. Excuse me, I got hiccups. So 2.2 coming in at Lake Almanor right now, just a few minutes ago. Things trying to kick up there again, it looks like. But 2 more days until the member drawing. We are picking out two people, folks. We don't do it every month, but I kind of mix it up a little bit. 2 people out of the fishbowl. We don't have a huge number of, let's see, stand by for a second here. I'm going to put this back here, and I'm going to look at my member drawings, or at least my members here real quick, and see what we have for members. So I'm going to pull this up right here. There we go. There we go. I think that's right. So we got 65 members. It's a little drop down from last month. I think we had about 93 members, but we did have quite a bit of membership gifts being put out. So 65 members. Latest, it looks like Amanda Little, Rebecca Biggs, latest members out here. And of course, everyone here that's on this list is entered into the member drawing. So 2 people, you got a pretty good chance, all right? 65 people, we're pulling out 2 winners. That's a pretty good chance, I think, of winning either a $50 Visa MasterCard or gift card of your choice, or a geology mining kit. Hurricane Heather received, I think it's an 11-piece geology mining kit that, or 13-piece. I know it's up there. There's quite a few different tools and whatnot that come with that geology mining kit. Or you could pick out a Earth Master T-shirt, which is very awesome here in the summertime to sport. Of course, of your color, whatever color you want. That member drawing is coming up here on the 15th. So 2 more days to get in here on the drawing, folks. So just want to point that out. A lot of people are asking me, when are we doing the drawing? When? Well, it's always on the 15th. We try to always do it on the 15th of the month. Alrighty, everyone. Have a good night. Stay safe out there. We will catch you guys back here tomorrow, June 14th. Goodness, I can't believe it already. Doesn't feel like it because we've had a crazy winter and a cool summer so far. It just seems like it's April, maybe. But no, it's middle of June. Have a good night, everyone. See you guys back here tomorrow.